Welcome to the first episode of In the Browns Backfield. I'm your host, Billy Beebe. This will be one of the podcasts taking a look back at some Browns history, some interesting things that we've decided to examine. With me in the backfield today is Liam Fallon. Liam, welcome. And I think we have a really awesome show that I've been trying to put together and kind of been doing the research on for a while now. So essentially, since the Browns have returned in 1998 or 99 season, they have struggled. That's no secret. Everybody knows that. But Liam, I think for us as really fans we were born like right around when they came back, so we've been fans since they came back. I think there's two teams that stuck out mainly to me, and I think for a lot of fans being around the Browns culture and hearing people talk about it, there's two teams that have stuck out: the 2007 Browns and the 2018 Browns, which is the most recent. So the 2007 Browns go 10-6, just missed the playoffs by a game. And then the 2018 Browns, that is Baker Mayfield's rookie year, the emergence, the year they were on Hard Knocks, a whole lot going on. But again, another almost winning season, another exciting season. So we're going to take the time today to compare the two teams, take a look, a full breakdown. Everybody remembers we were really good in 07. I think going back to the stats, there's a ton of good stuff that I went back and found and really took a deep dive look at. And for me, Liam, it started with going back and watching the Battle of Ohio in week 2. The Browns go shootout with Cincinnati, a really good game. I think they ended up winning with about 56 points. And the thing was, I watched and I just felt like everything was slow, real slow, especially defensively. The Browns just seemed not strong, not fast. And I just thought, man, I feel like that 2018 would just beat up on them, really just speed, quickness, stuff like that. And that's when I thought, hey, let's take a look, looking at the stats and all that. I think we have a better debate than you would think. Obviously one team went 10-6. The other, I think, had a chance to go 10-6, was kind of in that area. Let's start here, Liam. So the 2002-2003 Browns go to the playoffs, lose in Pittsburgh. I'm 22. You're, I believe, 20. So in your opinion, and I've asked a couple people, and some people have brought it up, why do you think the 02-03 team really doesn't stick out?
I don't know. I think it's just a different game nowadays. Like the talent wouldn't necessarily translate into today's time, and we have more personalities, more like exciting players on the team now, big names that we have now compared to like that time period.
I think even 07, the Browns had multiple first-round picks that came alive, and I think even had guys that stayed and had better careers. And 02-03, that team was broken up 2 or 3 years later. Not that the 07 team wasn't, but, they went to playoffs. I think it hurts they lost to Pittsburgh. People don't really want to talk about that, obviously. And then there's just there's a load of awkwardness there. Tim Couch wins so many games, but Kelly Holcomb takes over. A lot of their first-round picks hadn't really panned out. Courtney Brown wasn't very good. And Gerard Warren, I think, was all right, but hadn't really panned out for them, and then that team was broken up not soon after. 04, Braylon Edwards was drafted. So that's your timeline. So things got mixed up right there. I think a lot of people would try and argue the 02-03 team, they go to the playoffs. So, yeah, they are memorable. But I think, just joking-wise, the guys in the bar talking, you say the best Browns teams, 18 was so exciting. Baker's reemergence, some big wins. But I think 07, people just – they see that as a year we exploded, we were unexpected, and we kind of made a playoff push.
Yeah, especially with a lot of unnamed, like not big name players. Like we definitely were not expected to do as well as we did that season compared to the 2018 season where a lot of talent came in.
Yeah, so me and Liam have broken it down into 10 segments. We'll take a look at the segments, have highlights displayed for you as we go. We thank you for joining us again here on In the Browns Backfield. We'll have some more exciting stuff coming up this summer, as it looks like football may be the next sport we kind of get a look at. So, again, we're kind of going to do a point system a little bit, whoever wins a certain category. I think we have a lot of interesting stuff to take a look at here, LP. So segment 1, comparing the two teams. in your opinion, segment 1, more interesting quarterback change. So both teams went through a dramatic quarterback change. The 07 team, Charlie Fry takes over for Derek Anderson. Now, a lot of interesting stuff behind the 07 team on this one, Liam. So Joe Thomas tells the story that Charlie Fry had, I believe, a year and a half experience before the 07 year, a third-round pick out of the University of Akron. Him and Derek Anderson locked in a battle for all of the preseason for the starting job. However, the Browns had kind of leaned towards Fry, and it looks like that's how they were going to go. He gets one half of one game terrible against the Steelers, really, really bad in game 1. And, they had no choice. They flipped to Fry, or they flipped from Fry to Anderson. And, I think for a lot of reasons, that one's interesting because you go all the preseason and then you switch after one game, and then not even you switch, you trade Charlie Fry.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I was taking away from that is for the first time since 1970, like a starting quarterback gets traded before week 3. Like, I found that absolutely insane, especially since like he won preseason. How do you not go from at least, I mean, you can get your job taken pretty easily nowadays in the NFL, but how do you not go from starter to backup at least? Like, how do you get traded?
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think, of course, you have to add Brady Quinn was his rookie year, but he had a holdout, so he came into camp late and was behind the two guys. So despite coming in, it really was Fry and Anderson. Let's move to the 2018 Cleveland Browns. Liam, Tyrod Taylor, of course, traded for in the offseason. Browns take Baker Mayfield number 1 overall. Taylor gets 2 games in. He starts 0-2. He exits their Thursday night game at halftime. Baker Mayfield steps in, wins it. The rest is history. I think there wasn't a competition in the preseason. We know that because on Hard Knocks they said Baker was competing to be number 2. Tyrod was coming off, I believe, a wild card appearance with the Bills. He was at least good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited for stability. What was that?
Pro Bowler in the past too.
Yes, yeah, he had made a Pro Bowl. They had gone to the playoffs. I liked the stability. I think that's what excited me most. Just moving on from Kessler and Robert Griffin and DeShone Kizer, just moving on from all those guys. They switched. They kind of had to switch. It wasn't a choice. They had to switch. Tyrod exited with a concussion. I was at the Thursday night game. Really exciting to have Baker prop in there. And obviously, Baker takes over from there. He's really the first quarterback since Anderson to play 16 games. I think that's really interesting and noteworthy. Tyrod, of course, stays on the team for the rest of the year. But, it's just a whole different game. Tyrod held the ball too much. He really was just a safe player. And Baker changed kind of things up for Cleveland and their culture. Of course, he's going to last at least, I think, his 4 years of his contract. Anderson only went 2 more, I believe. But we're sticking – the idea is not the better quarterback. That's not what we're saying. What to you is a more interesting quarterback change? What really grabs the headline? The exit of Tyrod Taylor or the week 1 halftime change to Derek Anderson?
I was a big advocate of keeping Taylor in for the rest of the season just because I do like to see young quarterbacks learn under someone with a little more experience. But like you said, it did come from an injury, so it wasn't like a random decision being made, which would have made it a little more exciting. But so I'm going to go with Fry and Anderson just because it's a week 1 change after you name a starting quarterback and he just goes out after halftime due to a poor performance, never to play for the team again. I think that's a little more exciting than the injury.
I think it's really – I'm going to go with that one too. So that's a win for the 07 team. Super interesting. A whole preseason battle, which we've seen a couple times. Manziel and Hoyer and Manziel and McCown went at it. I think Brady Quinn pushed Derek Anderson the next year. And Brady Quinn, like I said, he came in late, so he was never really considered for the starting job. Anderson was a guy they had just gotten from Baltimore. He was a 6th rounder, a big guy, 6'6", and a big arm. kind of crazy, Liam. I mean, they not only they changed like that, and Anderson wasn't good in the first game, and then he wins that second one in a big shootout. But Charlie Fry traded after that. I think that's a very, very underrated set of just the drama and the change so fast for the Browns. So '07, the winner of a little bit of drama, a little bit of interest in the week one quarterback change. So let's shoot to segment number 2. This one's a little fun, Liam. Interesting fact for you, '07 was the first year that the NFL started doing captains, official captains. Teams had to list them and kind of promote them a little bit more. So it's interesting. Which, in your opinion, is a more talented, leadership-driven, and fun group of captains? Who would you have taken? 2007, the Browns captains were, again, you have to pick offense, defense, special teams, and I think you get one more to add on to that. So you get you get 5 total. So 2007, the Browns, Hank Fraley, the center, Joe Jarvis in his second year at receiver, Andre Davis, the linebacker, Willie McGinnis, the Super Bowl champion linebacker, and Phil Dawson, the kicker. That's the 2007 squad. 2018, Tyrod Taylor, Christian Kirksey, Myles Garrett, Britton Colquitt, and Joel Bitonio. Experience, play, and personality is kind of what we're looking at here, Liam. A couple interesting things here, and I want to get your thoughts, but I'll start with this. Hank Fraley didn't go much longer with the Browns. And for me, I'm happy the '07 Browns didn't pick Charlie Fry because I don't like when teams make quarterbacks their captain just to do it. They just make the quarterback captain. I think there's been a couple different cases in the past years where when you pick a captain, that's the guy that's supposed to be leading your team, and next thing you know is that you don't consider him good enough to even be playing.
Yeah, I think a part of that is just to try to get the team to rally around like it is. Like just the image of having your quarterback be the captain, it's a lot easier to rally around a guy who's out there trying to lead the team. But like if he doesn't earn it, you can't give it to him.
All right, so let's go through the names again, and you kind of give me your thoughts. '07, Hank Fraley, Joe Jarvis, Andre Davis, Willie McGinnis, and Phil Dawson. Liam, what are your thoughts on the '07 captain group?
I really like that we put the guy with the Super Bowl experience with Willie McGinnis there. And then obviously you have the all-time great Phil Dawson. Those two are the names that stick out most to me. You have the second-year receiver, Joe Jarvis. I think you said second year. He was named captain.
Yeah, Jarvis. Yep, he was with us for 3 years. So.
Yeah, like you said, he was there for only one more year after that. So I mean, he was a good guy here when he was with us, but he did not much of a long-standing impact after that. So those are like the names that stand out to me. But that's my thought on that one.
All right, Liam. And then 2018, Tyrod Kirksey, Myles Garrett, Colquitt, and Bitonio.
Yeah, this one I'm a little more familiar with, obviously, just because it's more recent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Tyrod, I don't know if he necessarily earned it, but like I feel like you have to like give him at least a shot to prove himself, get the team rallying around him. He's a newer guy. It was a newer offense. Like we didn't have many like returning players. Like that was kind of like resetting everything. So try to get the team to rally around him. And then I really liked Kirksey. He's a big Cleveland guy, or he was, I should say. He's not with us anymore, but big Cleveland guy, really helped the community a lot. Great, like on and off the field guy. I really liked him there. And then the rest of the guys are just all upstanding guys, great talent wise.
Yeah, so for me, I think the 2018 group has more talent. I was never big on Kirksey as a captain. I thought he couldn't stay on the field, and I thought he was still like kind of a bit of a loser. He was just the longest tenured Brown. Myles Garrett is really good, obviously. Colquitt was really good, and Bitonio really, really good at left guard. Fraley, I remember, was okay, and he had okay stats and standing. Jarvis was all right. Davis was pretty good. McGinnis, like you said, was a Super Bowl champion, kind of a deep voice, stern guy, but, you know, he didn't have a very good year overall. I think a lot of people remember he was on the team, but he didn't have a good year. And then Phil Dawson, the kicker. I'm going to go with 2018, getting the win on this one. I think there's more talent there, and I think there's still that same amount of veteran leadership. What's your vote?
I'm going to agree with you there. I think 2018 takes it just based on talent alone.
All right, so segment 2, the captains from personality, experience, and leadership trait. We go with the 2018 Cleveland Browns, Tyrod Taylor, Christian Kirksey, Myles Garrett, Joel Bitonio, and Britton Colquitt, not Dustin Colquitt. So we're tied at 1-1 after 2 segments. All right, Liam, number 3, we're going to start shooting into positions here, the quarterback battle. We named them already, the guys who took over. Now we're going to get to take a complete look at their season, everything they got to do, their stats. Obviously, they have kind of different playing styles in a way. We'll start with Derek Anderson, 15 games on the year, 3,787 yards, Liam, 29 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, 56.5% throwing percentage. Your initial thoughts on Derek Anderson?
I think he did great given his situation. I mean, no one was really expecting him to do much. He came in, made it to the Pro Bowl, led the team to a season that was not expected by many.
Yeah, I think for me, when we talk about Anderson, it's tough because he didn't work out like you hoped, obviously, right? He couldn't recreate that. Even the next year, I think he only got to start 5 games before they switched to Brady Quinn. We're trying to stay focused on 07, season by season.
Mm-hmm.
If we're looking at 07, 29 touchdowns is beautiful. That's what you want. A gunslinger. And we'll jump into that when we get to receivers and running backs. But, man, they just dropped back and threw it every time. Anderson had an arm. He was decently accurate, but this is a guy that tossed it high and far every time, and he had the receiving core to do it. I thought he fit the system so perfectly with the guys they had. I thought it really confused me why they didn't go with him from the beginning. Liam, what are your thoughts? I mean, Anderson really fit that all perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, during training camp, we weren't necessarily there to see how it played out, but like throughout the rest of the season, it seemed like he was the obvious choice.
Yeah, and then, I mean, just and he had that excitement factor. Not a scrambler, not a big personality guy. He was, kind of stale a little bit, but tall, big arm. He would get fired up in big games, and he had some tough situations that, he was into. Obviously, with the snow game, with the idea that he was just thrown in there after Fry, and then obviously, he just found a way to fit, and that receiving core was built for it. I really like the season from Derek Anderson. So, again, about 4,000 yards from Anderson, 29 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. Let's switch to the rookie Mayfield. He played one less game, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 63.8%. Overall, Liam, number 6, just a little more efficient, a little more accurate. I think he had less yards is about the only one. I think I left that off, but Baker was about 150 yards short. But again, he was a game short of Anderson. Yeah. Baker took over this team. He made him exciting. He made exciting throws. At times he didn't, and in year 2 he didn't. But 18, he really revived everything.
Yeah, if we are strictly looking at 18, I mean, Baker coming out of college, his big thing was that he was the most accurate passer in the draft. So it's no surprise there that the numbers are a bit more efficient. I would have liked to see him play one more game just to see what those stats would have been like an actual comparison. But he did very well given, again, the circumstances that he was kind of thrown into, not necessarily supposed to be a starting quarterback that season. But he took the team and did what a lot of people didn't know if he could necessarily do year 1.
All right, Liam, breaking it down, if you're starting your team from scratch and get the choice, are you going with Baker or are you going with Derek Anderson?
This one is one of the tougher ones that I've looked through on the segment so far. I'm probably just going to have to go with Baker just because he had the less game, more efficient, better season overall, efficiency-wise. He might not have had the number of wins that Anderson had, but I'm still going with Baker.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Baker, too. A big win for 2018 for the rookie, and that's crazy to have a rookie in there. Anderson, just going back and just looking a little bit, he's just too loose. Everything's too loose. And Baker's loose, but he's loose with his footwork, and we're keeping 2019 out of this. 2018, he had some mistakes, but mainly I feel like Baker was accurate. He was smart, and even if he tried to make the big play, it wasn't just a big heave. Mm-hmm. It was really a push to get the ball where it needed to be. So that's a big win for the 2018 Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield is the quarterback of our choice. Let's go to segment 4, the running backs. This one, another tough one, Liam, another interesting one. Jamal Lewis, the former Baltimore Raven, no friend of the Browns, definitely, until he got there. Lewis, 298 yards, 298 rushes, 1,304 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per carry. He did miss some games to injury. That was one of his faults. He's a little bit older, and this was a pass-first offense, but still a pretty good year from Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, 1,000-yard rusher with the amount of yards Anderson and the receiving core were putting up every game. You got to give it to him there.
I mean, we're talking about a thick, big-body runner, and a guy that stabilized and set the offense up because, like I said, I can't put enough emphasis on it. These guys tossed the ball around. If you watch the highlights, and we got them popping up here, but they just chucked it around. They had the receivers, the tight ends, and the play callers to do it. That was the offense, but Jamal Lewis had some big runs, some tough runs, and this was the guy that would work as hard as he could to get you 10 yards. So let's break down the other man. So an awkward situation for the 2018 Cleveland Browns, right? They give Carlos Hyde a fresh contract, then draft Nick Chubb at the top of the second round. Chubb, a big unknown after an Achilles tear, and then kind of finished up okay at Georgia, but top of the second round. 192 carries, 996 yards, 8 touchdowns. So he was only 400 yards off Lewis, 8 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. Really wasn't the starting running back till about week 6 or 7. So I think that plays against Chubb in the idea that Lewis was the starter all year, never didn't earn it, and really rolled from there. But, I mean, we know what Nick Chubb did that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this might not be the most popular opinion, but I think if you're going and looking at the two, I think Lewis might have had the more prominent season when it comes to helping the team out. They were throwing the ball around, yeah, but when they needed yards, he was the workhorse back, and he got it done the whole season and did what he was asked of him the whole season.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with my vote is for Nick Chubb. I think he never got hurt. He stayed in that role and kind of waited and then blew up. And I think he would have crushed Jamal Lewis's number. So you said Lewis or Chubb?
I'm going with Lewis.
Okay, so a
I think
split
he knew his
on
spot in
that
the
one.
offense. Yeah.
That's all right. We got a light split at running back. I think either one would have done fine. Really similar in a lot of ways. I think Chubb a little bit faster.
Yeah.
He's getting almost a yard more per carry, but really interesting, those two guys. And, again, the paths that they have, right? Lewis coming from a different team, joins the Browns. He's there for a couple more years, big body running back. And it was interesting because Chubb and him were kind of in situations where Lewis got more time overall. Even Chubb sometimes had to sit for Duke Johnson on some pass plays when the Browns would maybe go to Jason Wright, which is a blast from the past name. So they would throw Jason Wright in on pass plays, and then Jerome Harrison was a close third. And Chubb got those numbers, man, despite competing with Hyde, who wasn't bad at all, really good, and then Duke Johnson. He had to battle with those two guys. Kind of crazy to think he still came away with those numbers.
Yeah, if we are looking at just the 2018 season, that's basically what my decision was made off of. If this is 2019, it's a whole other story.
I do think, our debate is who gets wins in the season-wise, but if we're trying to start a team and start things over, you like the idea that Lewis would just tap in, be ready to roll. I don't think they had injury concerns with him. He was just ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, so we split on that segment, 4 on running back. So far, the 07 team had a more controversial quarterback change from Charlie Frye to Derek Anderson. Better set of team captains, we went with 2018. Better quarterback, we went with 2018 in Baker Mayfield. And then we have a split on segment 4. So far, the 2018 Browns are kind of winning a little bit with a better set of captains and a better quarterback. We moved to segment 5, the receivers. This one really, really fun, Liam, and I could have probably should have done it sets of receivers, kind of the 1-2, but so we'll start with 2007. I just broke it down to say Braylon Edwards and Jarvis Landry. Those are the two that we're kind of looking at here. So, yes, the 07 team tossed it around. Like I said, they flung it. Anderson had the arm for it. The receivers were big. But, they did get Edwards, Jaravicious, but Edwards was the one. And we'll look at Winslow too, but Edwards was the one. He was the big play guy. He had plenty of big plays. 2018, people got to look at the stats, man. They tossed it around. Everybody got it. Callaway had more touchdowns than Jarvis. They went to Higgins a lot. That was Higgins' breakout season. Perriman came in mid-season. Njoku had his best year that year. So, it really got popped out in 2018. So, taking a look at Braylon Edwards, he was drafted in 04, Liam. This was his coming out year. This was the big one we all hoped he would have. The man was 6'3", 214. He had 80 catches, 1,289 yards, 16 touchdowns. That is a stat that is music to my ears. If you think Braylon had that one good year, 16 touchdowns, 6'3", the big dog. I love the year from Braylon Edwards.
Yeah, I agree. Statistically wise, it seems like he's the obvious choice just because they didn't move the ball around to as many players that year as we did in 2018. But, I mean, you can't, put down any stats like that. 16 touchdowns is just absolutely amazing.
And the Browns, they really want it too. I mean, that's the kind of thing where that's a stat they love to see, and that's what they wanted from Edwards, who they took high first round. They skipped Aaron Rodgers for him. They skipped some other really good players, and not a speed receiver in any way, but a great route runner, a tall receiver, a physical receiver. And, man, I mean, when we're talking about highlights, he is on it, Liam.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
One thing to note, he did get in the little scrabble with Charlie Fry the year before. They got in some type of odd little fight on the sideline. So definitely not a leader. I would say he had his issues, and we'll get to that when we finish things up with which team had the more drama. But Braylon Edwards, man, again, 19 touchdowns and 16 touchdowns and almost 1,300 yards in 2007. He went on to finish his contract with the Browns, but not re-signed. They picked up his option in 2009 and traded him to the Jets. So that's kind of why you hear the stat that Rashard Higgins recently is the first Cleveland Brown receiver to re-sign, which is kind of crazy. And if they re-sign Myles Garrett, he'll only be the second first-round pick for the Browns to re-sign a second contract, which I think is really crazy.
Yeah, we might not be drafting too well at that point.
All right, let's take a look at the opposite in a couple ways. Jarvis Landry, 5'11", 196. He had 81 catches, so one more than Braylon, but he had 976 yards, so he had way less yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, way, way less touchdowns. Liam, this one's tough, man, just because Jarvis, if you really look at those stats, he didn't have as good a year as people thought. So it's a complete culture change. Jarvis was a big deal. They bring him in. One thing, the guy's going to catch balls. That was huge for him. And then number 2, he's a leader. The guy is so happy, and I think that's a podcast we're going to do coming up. He's so happy to be in Cleveland. He's leading everybody. He's a culture changer. And despite the fact, he only had 81 yards, he's not a big receiver. Kind of a speed receiver, not necessarily. At the end of the day, I'd describe him as a possession slot receiver almost. Jarvis, way different. You love the 2018 year from him.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was going to make, is that the one big thing between him and Edwards is that he is that team leader, the guy who's going to get everybody to rally around him. His stats might not be there, but he's a receptions kind of guy. He's going to make that big catch when you need it. He might not be the downfield target like that Edwards necessarily was, but that's because he doesn't have the height, and that's not the kind of guy that Baker necessarily is. You have Anderson, who's throwing those deep bombs to Edwards. You have Mayfield, who's making precision passes and slants and stuff to Landry. So it's really a toss-up. It's 2 completely different players here. Both did well enough for the team to get their spot in the segment, though.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy just thinking about, you really feel like each receiver worked well for the QB. Edwards is huge. He needs that. Kind of have faith in me, I'll find it. He has a little bit of speed to him, but, again, he's 6'3". You can see it in him. He's lengthy, has a little bit of experience on him, and made the most of it that year. And then, again, Jarvis, a little bit smaller, but he's a possession receiver. If you put it close to him, he's going to make a good move at it. Definitely an interesting kind of comparison there. So, Liam, which guy are you taking for your season?
It's really tough because stat-wise, you got to go Edwards, but 2018, it was a complete culture change. Like you had to turn that team around from something that was really nothing. And Landry came in and did that. He was the big name guy that we brought in to completely change what was going on here. So based on like effectiveness for the team, I'm going to go with Landry here.
Really, you like Jarvis? You really got to lean on that take that he's the leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Edwards. I love it. Physical freak. This is the best year you could have had. I mean, those numbers are undeniable, man. I really love the 16 touchdowns. We flashed some highlights on him. Really, really good. Just not even route running with speed, just his footwork, uptake, big feet, big guy, and he had some huge games. And it just seemed like he was always there when they needed him, which again is there with Jarvis. But another split. I mean, it really is a kind of look. Difference-wise, I think for the long term, I would always take Jarvis. But for 1 year, do or die, I'm taking Braylon. I like that. Again, 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns. Now, let's move on to the tight ends as we split again in the receiver zone. Tight ends, this is where it gets really interesting, Liam. We have two Miami tight ends, Kellen Winslow Jr., David Njoku, both first-round tight ends by the Browns. Winslow, a high first-round pick. Another guy that had some trouble in the past, and they were waiting on him to realize his potential. A broken leg and a motorcycle accident in separate things. He broke his leg in his rookie year and then was in a motorcycle accident in 2006. So they were finally ready for him to come back and have a big year. Man, did he. Kellen Winslow Jr., 6'4", 240, another big boy from Derek Anderson that threw the ball around. So he had 82 catches. So he beat out Jarvis and Braylon Edwards in catches. He had 1,106 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had more yards than Jarvis and more catches than Jarvis and more touchdowns than Jarvis Landry, the number 1 receiver on the 2018 team. That's what kind of is crazy for me to think that Kellen Winslow had that big a year.
Yeah, the touchdowns is the thing that really gets me with as big as of a target as he was. But then again, you do have Braylon Edwards, who is the monster red zone target.
And we didn't include Jarvis. Jarvis is another big receiver with good hands. Yeah. So Winslow just had a crazy year, probably the most you would want from a first-round tight end. Great size, a lot of good results. Taking a look at kind of the other end of that stick, David Njoku, 6'4", 246. So they're about even in size. He only had 56 catches, 639 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Way less in yards, 1 less touchdown. But, man, Liam, this was his best year so far in 3 years, Njoku. They're different in a lot of ways. Winslow's a tall possession receiver. Njoku likes to get the ball and go. You have to get it to him. He doesn't have the good hands. Winslow does. I don't think there's much of a competition. I mean, Njoku was big in the idea that he was a huge red zone threat. If you look at all his touchdowns, they really were red zone touchdowns and uptake throws. Winslow is just more reliable, better hands, bigger plays. And, obviously I just think he's more memorable as a Cleveland Brown.
I agree completely. Really, Njoku was like the exciting player. He's making hurdles from like the 10-yard line trying to make it into the end zone. But if you go in for a consistent great season, you got to go Winslow here, no doubt.
All right, so another win for the 2007 team. So we are tied now. We had 2 draws and then a win and a win and a win and a win. So both teams kind of getting their dues at different positions. We went with a more interesting quarterback battle for the 07 team. Better set of team captains, we went 2018. In the quarterback battle, we went with 2018. Running back, we split. Wide receiver, we split. And tight ends, we went with 07. So next up, I think once again, Liam, this one's not even going to be a debate as we look at special teams. For the Browns, it's simple. You have Josh Cribbs and Phil Dawson versus Jabril Peppers, Zane Gonzalez, and Greg Joseph. So a switch there. Cribbs made the Pro Bowl, and he had that big play against the Steelers where the ball rolled back. He only had 2 touchdown returns, but I mean, it didn't matter. The guy was just setting him up with good position. Josh Cribbs really good in that way to even get them started at the 35 or 40. This is back when the league still wanted kick returns. Kick returns were still a big deal. Rolls back in Pittsburgh. That's a game the Browns unfortunately lost. But Cribbs made a good play at it. He rolled through. And, again, Dawson's a legend. I mean, this isn't even a competition. Peppers was young, still making mistakes. You end up trading him, but you had high hopes for him. Gonzalez, oh, man, the Saints game, he gets hurt. He's terrible. And then you go to Joseph, who even so, was good enough but not great. I don't think there's a competition here.
No, I mean, you have Cribbs, who is the face of the Browns as a special teamer, and Phil Dawson, who's leading the team in points in all-time history, versus a young guy, and then 2 players who aren't even with us. So, I mean, it's a no-doubter in my mind as well.
So another win for the 07 team. I don't think we need to spend too much time on special teams. It's just nice to look back at Josh Cribbs, man. He really people remember him for his touchdowns, obviously. I think that's a big deal, but man, he wasn't even much of a receiver in this offense. They had receivers. He just started them off most of the time where they needed to be, kick return or punt return, got a good amount out of it. And then Dawson was so reliable. He hit field goals in that snow game. He just in general was a captain and doing real well. Cribbs obviously goes on to have a long and good career with Cleveland. He's a Kent State guy, but, in that year, man, he's so good setting them up where they need to be on drives. And that's key when you're not screwed. Defense has to help you out, obviously, but Peppers, I mean, he fumbled in the Tampa Bay game, which we ended up losing. I think he fumbled in overtime. He was still getting adjusted. He never quite won that job. I think they were still pushing I can't remember who, but they were pushing other guys to try and take that position. I think Duke was in there, and then there were other players that they were kind of auditioning. So Cribbs and Dawson, an easy win for the 07 team.
Cribbs was a heck of a guy, too. He was one of the first players I actually met in person. I went to a Browns dinner with him. I got the chance to meet him. He was letting me and my friend, we were like 6 or 7 at the time, he was letting us tell jokes. He was giving us autographs the whole time. Just a great standout guy. Yeah,
definitely. And, Peppers and the rest of the guys, not much of a tenure in Cleveland. So defensively, Liam, I think we're just going to pick a defensive squad rather than go position by position here. I think it's tough to grade kind of position by position. So in 2007, the notable players, DeQuell Jackson was the best linebacker for the Browns. He had 75 tackles. He had 1 interception. And then Cameron Wimbley was the best pass rusher. If you remember, he was a first-rounder pass rusher, outside linebacker. He had 5 sacks and 39 tackles. The best corner for that team, Lee Bodden, 6 picks and 76 tackles. Really, if you go back and watch the highlights from most of those games, Lee Bodden's in on some plays. And that's a name that's underrated, but he really made his mark that year. DeQuell ended up having a good career, but I think that was his breakout year to look good. And then this was tough for Wimbley because he had 11 sacks the year before, so 5 sacks was killer for him. He was a first-rounder that they were hoping would get better and better, and he didn't. Specifically in this year, he dropped off big time. So that was the 07 defense. The 2018 defense, surprisingly, the best linebacker numbers-wise, Jamie Collins played most of the games. He had 73 tackles, and he had 4 sacks too, Liam, which is pretty good. DeQuell didn't have DeQuell had the 1 sack, so he didn't do great with that. And then Collins, I think, had 1 interception. And then pass rusher-wise, not even close. Myles Garrett had 13.5 sacks and 35 tackles. Denzel Ward had 3 interceptions and 41 tackles at corner. Man, this one's going to be up for debate, numbers-wise and consistency-wise. And even if you factor in a little bit of their going history, let's start with what are your thoughts on the 07 team? You're hearing those names, you're seeing those numbers. Anything catch your eye or just something you remember a little bit?
I remember DeQuell Jackson kind of being that guy for the defense. Like in a defense that wasn't necessarily great, it was a lot of shootouts that season. I mean, it is a different time period now, like two different defenses, like stat wise. And then Wembley, a lot of people hated on that guy. He was one of my favorite players to watch. Not necessarily the 2007 season because his stats were down a bit, but he was exciting for me. And then Lee Bodden, that was like the guy that you don't necessarily remember the name, but if you go back and watch the film, he's a productive player in a Browns secondary that wasn't necessarily the best that year.
Yeah, Lee Bodden fitting in there with Eric Wright and Mike Adams. So, just kind of some names that stick out a little bit. Jackson's an interesting name because we read the captains. Andre Davis is a linebacker and Willie McGinnis is a linebacker, and they didn't have close to his numbers. He really outshined them a little bit, and both those guys missed some games, but they needed Jackson, and he stepped up. You like that? And Lee Bodden, man, had better numbers than Ward. I mean, that's great to see. Lee Bodden had to take on Chad Johnson, Hines Ward. He's still kind of in the middle of some really good receivers that he had to take on, and he had a good year when they needed it.
Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see passer like percentage against each, just because, I mean, interceptions are a great stat, but like I want to see like percentage, like pass breakups and stuff. You never know who got thrown at more, There's a lot of factors that go into it, but you can't deny that both players had great seasons.
Sure. And then again, 2018, Jamie Collins, I remember, had hustle issues. So it was kind of interesting to see the 73 tackles. And it was nice that he was put in on some blitzes. I think that's solid. But that defense was crappy in the idea that they blitzed all the time, and it gave up so many points and created meaningless turnovers almost.
That deep safety.
Yeah. Myles Garrett was really good that year. I mean, that is unmistakable. 13.5 sacks, 35 tackles in year – I think that's the only year 2 for him that he did that. So really, really good. He was healthy all year. Man, this one's going to be really, really tough. I mean –
I honestly don't even know which way I'm going. They're like both – they're not similar, but like it's hard to compare them even.
I'm going to go my vote's for the 2018 team. So Collins and Jackson are going to be about equal, but Collins had more sacks. Garrett, obviously incredible on the D-line, and Ward missed some games. So, you add that up. But I think 2018, that's a stable and more talented group. And if you watch the games, like you said, they're faster and they just have that ability to look a little bit better. What do you think on that?
I agree 100%. It's just a better talent-wise. I mean, you got faster, better players. They're all younger, so, I mean, obviously you're going to have some hiccups there, but like talent-wise, I mean, you got Garrett with 13.5 sacks in one of his first few seasons. You just can't really beat that.
All right, so a big win there in segment 8 as the 2018 Browns have the better defense we picked from. As we move to segment 9, the better set of Pro Bowlers. Good to see the Browns getting some names in there. In 2007, they had a squad in the Pro Bowl. Joe Thomas, Kellen Winslow, Derek Anderson, Braylon Edwards, Josh Cribbs, and Brian Paprione. Paprione, the long snapper, so that kind of weird there. But, man, their offense pushed that. And I think Jamal Lewis was close to getting on that Pro Bowl team too. Cribbs was in the Pro Bowl a lot as a kick returner. And I was surprised not to see Phil Dawson on here. I honestly thought he would be. Man, Liam, 2007, that's a group in the Pro Bowl.
I mean, that's just – we scored points that year. We scored points and got yards. That's what fans love to see. That's what the kind of players that get put in the Pro Bowl.
And I think the other thing is the Browns finally hit on their picks. Edwards, Winslow, these are guys they really wanted to come alive that finally did. It was big for the Browns to see success with these guys. And Joe Thomas in the rookie year making the Pro Bowl. We'll jump to a light little edge thing that we're going to talk about in the end here, Liam. And then 2018, the Browns get Joel Bitonio, Myles Garrett, Jarvis Landry, and Denzel Ward in there. I almost don't count Paprione, so 2007 really had one more Pro Bowler. You like that group for the Browns. Obviously, some rookies, some guys that came alive right when they were supposed to, Jarvis, the acquirement, which group of Pro Bowlers are you more proud of? Which group do you like more?
I think it all goes back to like expectations. Like in 2007, nobody really expected us to be doing anything. We went 10-6. That group really stepped up. You get players like Jarvis, Landry, they're expected to make the Pro Bowl. It's great to see the young guys like Garrett and Ward get in there so early. But I mean, the talent in 2007 like was really underrated going in, and they came out Pro Bowlers. I think you have to go 2007.
I'm going to agree. I think I was excited to see these names finally do so well. I think they're beloved names for some reason, even with the struggles they've had. I'd take that 2007 team. That is a good group. Unfortunately, no defensive players. I don't know how – we're really going to have to go back and look at Lee Bodden because I like those numbers from him, and he didn't make the Pro Bowl. Another big win for the 07 group. We are tied – Liam, heading in to the 10th segment here as we had two ties earlier. So the final segment before we do some following notes, we thank you for joining us here in the Browns Backfield pod with Billy Beebe and Liam Fallon joining me here today. Liam, the final segment is drama. Which team had the more interesting, funnier, memorable set of drama? So the 2018 Browns had a ton of drama in that year, right? And I really want to make this a segment because I think both teams had such interesting stories to them.
Mm-hmm.
So for 07, I decided to include all their drama, right? So 2 years down the road, 2 years before. I thought it'd just be fun. You get to take a walk down memory lane. I think they'll even out a little bit and push each other. So let's start with 07, okay? And feel free to add in because there's a lot that I've kind of forgotten and haven't looked at.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with Kellen Winslow. Like I said, he had the broken leg, but year two, that motorcycle accident was a big deal. He trashed it in a parking lot, and they thought he was going to lose his leg. This is the Browns' 05 first-round pick, and he was going to lose his leg because of a motorcycle accident. I think that is interesting in itself, number one. I think the quarterback change really grabs drama for me. I think it's crazy they switched like that. That they kind of free-floated to it. Let's move to Joe Jaravicius, another interesting part of this. He goes on to get staph infection in his leg. It's not treated properly by the Cleveland Clinic, and he ends up suing the Browns, his team, for doing – I believe he was still on the team at that point that he was suing them, trying to recover.
I heard that those were some of the most unsanitized, like dirty, like training facilities that the league has seen in a long time.
But definitely some craziness to that one. And then Braylon Edwards, besides freaking out on Charlie Fry the year before, in 09, he ends up right before he gets traded. A lot of people don't remember this. He claims he got jumped outside a club by three of LeBron's friends, and he threw a punch on one of them and then ran.
So you're in Cleveland, and LeBron James's friends.
Friend of a friend, to be honest. Not even LeBron's boy, but yes.
Multiple guys jump you?
Yes, 4. Well, they tried.
4 of them.
Yeah.
And you were able to hold your ground of 4 guys.
I knocked 2 out, and then the other 2 kind of backed up. And then an officer that's usually out there every Sunday night, who I know was like, Braylon, get out of here, go home. Like, just making sure I didn't, get in trouble. So I jumped in my car, and I went home. That was it. Left early, too. It wasn't even like a 2 o'clock deal. It was around like 11:15. So I left to go home, but because I'm an athlete, because I'm a big name, it didn't matter that I was getting jumped. What matters is I won the fight. I am an athlete, so they automatically assume that we're stronger than everybody, and it's a bad look.
You're a star player in
Right.
Cleveland at that time when LeBron's a star player in Cleveland, his first tour. Did you ever talk to him about this?
He and I were friends, leading up to this, and I feel like the way in which it came about, it just wasn't handled the right way, and then it caused for some friction because he and I were friends. We would not necessarily go out together, but when we would see each other out at restaurants, we would, hey, how you doing? I'd pay for his tab sometimes, even though he didn't need it. He paid for mine, et cetera. Buy him a drink, say hi to his wife, Savannah. Like Eddie, I know his stepfather, et cetera. We were friends. So when this happened, I feel like neither one of us got a chance to talk to the other party. Because I remember him getting interviewed the day I got traded. And I remember he's like, I don't know what Braylon was doing, like fighting Eddie's like fighting one of my kids or something, he said. And he's always been jealous of me. And I just don't understand where that came from. I feel like he got put on the spot, and maybe that's the first thing that came up. Because you got to remember, he's still young at this time. This is '09. This is 10 years ago. LeBron's, 34 now? So he's still only –
mid-20s.
Yeah, exactly. So he's still young, and you handle things differently when I trust me, I know. So I never was mad at him. I just never really got the chance to, hey, this is what happened.
But LeBron's side of it was Braylon Edwards beat up his little friend. And he ended up explaining that was like the size of his son or something. He said he beat him up, and then that was it. That was just what it was. So Braylon Edwards – and that was '09, so the Cavs are cruising. The Browns stink at that point.
I was going to say, I wonder what fan side are going to take on that one, LeBron or Braylon Edwards.
I know, that's crazy thing. And then lastly, Kellen Winslow in the news recently. I mean, you're going to have to do a deep dive on it on your own because I kind of don't understand all of it. I know he's kidnapping homeless people. I don't know what the full extent of it is that what he was doing to them, but he's in jail right now for kidnapping homeless people, multimillionaire tight end. A historic name in the NFL. His dad is huge in the NFL, and he's in prison right now. And then, again, he's big at Miami for that speech in the locker room about how he's a soldier and taking hits and throwing hits. I mean, what do you make of that group of drama right there? And then the Brady Quinn holdout to start the year, I think, was kind of a big deal.
I mean, I feel like that drama – I mean, no drama is good drama when it comes to an NFL team. You want to have things running as smoothly as you can, but, like, that is some pretty bad stuff given, like –
This is wild.
Compared to the 2018 kind of drama where you get, like, some coaches getting fired, like the team's not running smoothly. Like, this is, like, some major stuff.
Let's skip to 2018 because, I mean, we have a whole nother set to kind of take care of there. We'll start with Hard Knocks. I mean, that was just its own little thing, the drama there. They still we're working with Josh Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Gordon gets back. They end up trading him to New England. I mean, that was just a whole nother thing going on with Gordon. I thought, that was not necessarily the peak of it, but it was just a whole nother kind of interest thing there. A side one that I think a lot of people forget, Michael Kendricks, when they signed him from Seattle –
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, a really big deal to get him in there, and he was charged with fraud. He had traded tickets for insider trading.
Yeah,
or it was insider trading that he got.
I don't know how he's still playing.
He didn't go to jail, I don't think.
No, he's still playing.
He's on Seattle again, I believe. He was a big he's on Seattle now. He was on the Eagles. We got him from the Eagles. He won a Super Bowl there. We really felt like he was a steal. He was really good.
Big name during that Super Bowl season.
Yeah, and then, man, we're about to start the year, and he gets in trouble for fraud. He never played a game for us.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I don't like that he's still in the league right now, if that's what he did do. I mean, I guess he's still waiting for his case to be judged or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like if it's that serious, you shouldn't be allowed to keep playing. I mean, he got dropped from us for a reason.
The Corey Coleman drama, if you don't want to play me, just trade me.
Yeah.
Got it, bud.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. Just, I'm going to do a HBO Hard Knocks rewatch with the Browns because there's just so many funny things looking back. Him and Todd Haley going at it. Speaking of that, so the midseason firing – Hugh Jackson's fired up the Pittsburgh loss. The rumors later came out that he refused to leave his office, or he asked Jimmy Haslam to leave his office or something after he fired him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was that week, Liam, Jackson's fired, and we're kind of sitting on our hands. Who's our coach? Because Haley was still there, and then Haley gets fired.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, we're promoting Greg Williams, who's still little kind of considered to be the Bounty Gate guy.
Yep. Yeah. I liked Williams a little bit. He seemed to get the players fired up. A lot of them didn't necessarily like him, but that's better to be like respected than liked, He got them to do what they needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's just the 2018 team had some drama, and I'm sure Callaway got arrested at one point. I know I'm missing that.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackson in general is just super funny and a lot of just interesting drama. From what we presented, a lot of interesting stuff. I'm sure I'm missing something just because 18 was nuts. There's so many crazy things happening that's tough to remember. But Liam, we're going more interesting, not which one do you want, but more interesting set of drama.
I mean, 2018 was all like personalities, like strong personalities clashing with each other. 2007, man, that's just a lot of legal stuff that you don't see every day. I'm gonna have to go with 2007 on that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the same. I just think there's a couple of things you just wouldn't even pick to happen. The motorcycle incident. I mean, Kellen Winslow overall. I don't know that you're just picking all that to happen. Braylon beating up LeBron's friend. I still want the whole story there. Because even now, Braylon did an interview about it, I think a year ago, and he still doesn't understand the full story because he said, LeBron said I beat up his kid, and LeBron said he beat up my friend who's 5'4". Like, that's the size of my kid. So a lot of funny stuff there. So with that, we finish out the winner of the more interesting and memorable team, the 2007 Browns, 10-6. If fans don't remember, they needed the Colts to beat the Titans to go to the playoffs because the Steelers went 11-5. We're kind of getting into some sub facts here. Browns lost that opening game at home against Pittsburgh and then pushed them to the wire mid-season, but lost in Pittsburgh, had the lead almost the whole game. They lost in Cincinnati after beating up on Cincinnati in that back-and-forth game. They ended up winning. They couldn't win that game, and then there was an Arizona game that they had to win, and they didn't win it. So it came down to the Colts had to beat the Titans. I'll remember it forever. The Colts had to beat the Titans, but the Titans had locked up their spot, or the Colts locked up their spot, so they didn't care. They started Jim Sorgi, and the Titans won and went to the playoffs. That was a really good Titans team, and they were good for a couple more years. So I can't hate on that too much. The 18 Browns were in it a little bit. I think they were out by week 15. They need some wins they didn't get. They had some costly kind of wins in between. You wonder what would have happened if Baker started from the beginning, obviously. The Ravens game, they were super close in that one. And then the second Pittsburgh game, they really just came out and never really were in that one to play.
Yeah, I think 2018 was more about the culture change, getting the team turned around than really making the playoffs. But 2007, like I've been saying this whole time, they really came out of nowhere. They were not expected to do that at all.
Yeah, I think it's more killer to know they had 10 wins and they couldn't finish it. That's what's just disgusting is like, man, that one I think hurts the most. And then the drop-off, I mean, the Browns are still going to be competitive this year and next year, but 2008, they were bad. 2009, they were bad. They were changing quarterbacks again. Braylon moved on. Kellen Winslow ends up moving on. Jamal Lewis actually weirdly stays as Liam's cat makes another appearance here. Liam, another interesting thing I think we need to look at, just some side facts. What do you think is more interesting draft pick? The Browns going with Joe Thomas at 3 when there was Brady Quinn on the board, and I think a lot of people thought they were going Brady Quinn, or the Browns going with Denzel Ward at 4 when I think a lot of people thought they were going to go Bradley Chubb, or maybe there were a couple names there that they were taking a look at, but I think most people thought they were going Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, that draft was one of the most research drafts that I've gone through. I honestly thought that they could have taken Saquon at 1 and then taken a quarterback even there. I don't know. There's so many different scenarios that people were talking about. It paid off, I guess. We got Ward was a Pro Bowler, Baker's supposedly the face of the franchise. I think that one has to be a little more surprising than Joe Thomas. I mean, Joe Thomas was the staple of the Browns offense for so long. They knew what they were getting with him. I mean, there were some bigger names available, but I mean, they knew what they were doing with that Joe Thomas pick.
Awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of incredible stuff. Definitely worth the deep dive. From all the stats we went through, from all the interesting kind of things we went through, Liam, what stands out to you both from 2018 and 2007?
I think it's got to be that receiving core from the 2007 team and that yards that Anderson put up with them, man. That's crazy to think that a guy that – I mean, Braylon Edwards had that one really good season, and then, I mean, not much production. I mean, he was okay throughout the rest of his career, but – he blew up that season with Anderson.
Yeah, I'd say, number one, it's so fun to go back and watch those games. Some notable, they had the snow game that year, which was crazy to watch,
Just
and they
huge
ended up winning,
turnouts.
I think 9-3. They beat the Bills. Um, for me, I think what was most surprising was Jarvis did not have the year that I remember. Like, you just think Jarvis did well, which he did, of course, and I'm not going to slam Jarvis. I love Jarvis Landry. I think he's the ultimate. He's going to be up there with, if he finishes
Mhm.
this 5-year deal, it's going to be incredible to see where he stands legacy wise, just because the leader this guy is. But not even 1,000 yards, no more than 4 touchdowns. He played most of the games, and Kellen Winslow beat him out. I mean, that's what's crazy to me, is that Kellen Winslow was beating out Jarvis Landry in receiving stats.
That might not necessarily even be a knock on Jarvis. That might just be like like a good thing for Baker. Obviously, he was spreading the ball around very well that season.
Yeah. And then 07, to look at their defense was so interesting. I just think name-wise, you just thought, it was so tough to see. But if you really break it down, I guess they were okay. Bodden ended up playing well, but they were banking on that D-line. They had Robert Smith. They went with Cameron Wimbley, for another year. I think they really hoped that D-line would carry him a little bit. But, man, that was a sham defense.
Yeah, name wise, it's fun to look. It's fun to look back as Browns fans, but I feel like not many other fans around the league will really remember those names that were on the Browns defense that year.
All right, so stay tuned with In the Browns Backfield for more podcasts coming up. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Definitely going to be some awesome content coming up this summer for Liam Fallon. I'm Billy Beebe, reminding you to always look out when you're in the backfield.